Sports, continuing coverage of Hastings High School athletics. We're here in a sold-out Cochran Gymnasium on the campus of Hastings High School in Hastings on Hudson, New York. And I'm Keith Fagan, along with my broadcast partners tonight, Charles Berger and James Kennedy. We're going to have all the action. Head coach Eric Bartell brings his Dobbs Ferry Eagles into action against your Hastings Yellow Jackets in second round, Section 1 Class C tournament action. Right now, here comes the Hastings team onto the court. And James, what does Coach Eric Bartell and the Dobbs Ferry Eagles have in store for them tonight?
Well, the Eagles are coming in, and they got their work cut out for them. They're facing the #1 team in the state. Hastings already beaten them twice this year, and as I say, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And one thing, the ongoing saga that's going on for the past week has been the war of the paper, or the war of the newspaper. And one of the key quotes, which might put some fuel to this rivalry, I think if there's one team out there that could beat Hastings, it's Dobbs Ferry, said Eagles coach Eric Bartell, who projects his team will beat Pauling in the first round and then go on to beat Hastings. Now, in order for that to happen, Dobbs Ferry has to do a couple things. They need Danny Bucci to drive and penetrate, keep the defense off on their heels, and possibly dish out to Farrington for the shot. Farrington, the 6'4" junior at 17.8 a game, is going to be the key to this game. If Hastings can stop him, Dobbs going to have a tough time pulling this victory out. Some of the key other factors, his supporting cast. Look for a good game from Derek DeGuglielmo, Paul Scataratico. On a side note, very interesting story here. Up until 2 years ago, Derek DeGuglielmo and our own Chris Skrelja used to be teammates. So in the past, it was Derek DeGuglielmo giving the ball to Chris Skrelja, and now they're going to be head-to-head.
All right, James, I like that synopsis. And I tell you what, the atmosphere here tonight is absolutely electric. It's not quite what it was against the North Salem, but it's a sold-out gym here. There are no more seats. I've just gotten word that the police department has held people out. They're not letting any more people in the gym. So that's it. We're filled to capacity here. Nobody else can get in unless people leave. And right now, Charlie, what do you expect to see tonight in the ballgame?
Well, I expect Hastings to bring to the house everything that they've been doing, same thing they've been doing all season long. George Skrelja comes into today's contest averaging 21.7 points per game. Look for him to lead the Jackets to victory here today. Now, the one thing Hastings does so well is spread the ball around. Chris Skrelja comes in averaging 12.4 points per game. Jimmy Segru, the point guard, averages 12.7 points per game. And Danny Blake, the the senior specialty three-point shooter, averages 10.6 points per game. So look for Hastings to spread the ball around and play very stingy defense. I mean, that's been something Hastings we've kind of overlooked because their offense is so good. They play very tight, very stingy defense, and it's hard to penetrate and get down low. If Hastings can stop Dobbs Ferry's offense, they should have an easy time with this one here tonight. This will be the third time this season the two teams have met. In the first game, Hastings won by 23, 66-43. It was a game played here at the Cochran Gymnasium, and Hastings was able to run away with it. 3 days later, they played over in Dobbs Ferry and only won by 14. Now, the difference there is in Dobbs Ferry, the gym is a lot smaller. The size of the court is smaller, and that means they can play. Dobbs Ferry had an easier time because they played a full court press the whole game, and they had an easier time stopping George Skrelja that way. In that game with 2 minutes left, it was a 3-point game, and then Hastings took over. I don't expect this one to be close, to be perfectly honest. It's a packed house here tonight. And this is what this Hastings team is all about, coming through in the clutch. They're ranked #1 in the state, and it's for a reason, because they have the most talent in the state, and they're a clutch team. They're going to step up tonight against their arch rivals. I was talking to Jimmy Segru earlier before the game. He was mentioning how it's not so much the arch rival factor they're concentrating on. It's that this is the second round of the playoffs, and they have a lot of work to do, because they don't want to just win this game. They want to win the section and maybe even the states.
I spent some time with Coach Ward and the basketball team this week, Charlie. He had them practicing yesterday for 3.5 hours, had them in this morning for an hour shoot around to go over the game plan and to try and execute and defend what they believe Dobbs Ferry is going to try and do to them. I also spoke to Ward before the game. I spoke to Coach Ward before the game, and basically what he's looking for is he has several fears that he's expecting tonight. He's afraid of Kevin Farrington getting hot from the outside, throwing up the arc from 3. He's afraid about C.J. Fleming and how active he is. C.J. Fleming causes a lot of problems for the Hastings defense because at 6'3", he can handle the ball and he can rebound. He's afraid he wants to make sure that C.J. isn't very active, crashing the offensive glass and roaming around on offense. And he's afraid of Danny Bucci's penetration. So, if he can work it like that, if Dobbs Ferry can have Farrington hitting from the outside, C.J. being very active on the offensive glass, and Bucci dribble penetrating, it's going to be a long night for Hastings. So those are the things he's afraid of. He also is afraid of Dobbs Ferry pressing his team not being able to handle that pressure, yet Dobbs Ferry able to handle the pressure of Hastings. So if those things come to fruition, it's going to be a long night and it'll be a tight contest. Charlie, I agree with you though. I don't think all those things can come together with the fact of Hastings not playing their normal game. I think if Hastings plays their normal game, Dobbs Ferry plays above average, I still give the nod to Hastings. It's too many things that have to go right for Dobbs and wrong for Hastings for them to come out in the victory. Dobbs Ferry this year is 12-8, I believe, on the season. Hastings is 20-0. That's a huge difference in experience as far as winning basketball games go. Now, that being said, Dobbs Ferry has a lot of experience in their basketball team. Farrington's a 3-year junior. C.J. Fleming, a 3-year junior. Danny Bucci's a 3-year senior. So they had a lot of experience playing high school basketball games before. I just don't know in this kind of an atmosphere, with the pressure, the way the crowd's going to be to start the game, if Dobbs Ferry can come through that, then they'll be competitive.
Keith, my question to you is, how big a factor do you think the arch rival, how big is that going to play in today's game?
I think that's a huge factor. That's a very good point. I mean, I went to that Dobbs Ferry ball game, and Danny Bucci's a very emotional leader. The entire game, he was imploring his fans to go crazy, to go nuts. I also had the opportunity to see them about 5 days later, and it was like a morgue in there, Jim. They were kind of going through the motions. They ended up beating Woodlands by about 6 points, but it just wasn't the same kind of game, the same kind of atmosphere as it was when they played that rivalry game. These kids definitely get up for this ball game. They've known each other for years. Like James mentioned earlier, Derek DeGuglielmo, Chris Grudge were teammates till a couple of years ago. So I think the rivalry factor is huge. I applaud Jimmy Segru for trying to downplay it, because that's what a veteran leader is supposed to do. But let's face it, this is a huge factor in this ball game tonight.
One of the interesting notes that we might want to pay attention here is that Hastings has been simply untouchable at home. And one of the game within the games has already started. One of the factors here in the gym is that it is sweltering. Is that how we say it? Sweltering here. And that's an understatement. It gets very hot in this gym, and that's exactly the way Hastings likes it. Teams come in here and usually third, fourth quarter, they're huffing and puffing. Hastings, they're all conditioned, they're ready for it. So look for the heat in this gym to play a significant factor.
James, it's very interesting you should point that out, because about 5 minutes ago, Coach Urich tried to open up the doors to try and get a little air in here, and the athletic director from Hastings and the head coach for Hastings, Chris Ward and Drew Wendell, said, no, keep it shut, we like it hot. Coach Ward's from South Carolina, he likes it hot, and he's got it hot tonight.
Well, if you don't know, winner of this game goes to the county center. And as Keith can tell you from personal experience, that is one of the most memorable experiences in a high school career.
Yeah, Charlie, I was doing some research today in the libraries because we're trying to find out how many career points George Skrelja had. We found out he has 908 career points, so he won't get his 1,000th point tonight. But if Hastings can keep advancing into the tournament, he will eventually score 1,000 points in his career, something that only 6 players in the history of the game have done. I saw one of them, Mike Sassano, here earlier tonight. Another one, Tom Fleming, is here. So all the dignitaries for Hastings are back here. But the point I'm making about doing some research on the web is I read a quote that Tom Bragg had in 2000 when he talked about playing in the county center. Hastings lost that ball game in the semifinals to a Woodlands team to a Pleasantville team that was seeded number 2. And Tommy's quote was, "I've played here before, and I'll come to watch games here again, but nothing can replace the experience of walking on the floor of the county center and looking up and seeing 3,000 screaming fans going nuts, yelling for you while you're playing high school basketball."
That is some quote. I happened to bump into Chris Testa just a couple weeks ago. He's also another former Hastings player, and he said after his junior year playing at the county center, every single time he drove by the county center, he held his breath because he didn't want to jinx it. He wanted to get back there. As it turned out, he got back there and he won himself a Class C championship. So hopefully this Hastings team can do it again. They definitely have the talent, and with a win here tonight, they'll be heading to White Plains.
Well, I've been fortunate as a player here at Hastings to go to the county center 3 out of 3 of my 3 years on the varsity, and it is a thrill a minute. It's an experience you'll never forget. And as a kid growing up, you dream about playing here at Hastings and going to the county center. And today we have a lot of kids here. Jimmy Segru, George Skrelja, they coach a 3rd grade basketball team. And his entire team is here with green and gold shirts saying the George and Jimmy fan club. Sorry, George, just mistake you for your brother. The George and Jimmy fan club is here along with the entire Hastings student body, all looking to cheer their team on and get to the county center for another time. I'll tell you, Charlie, it seems like not only is this a home court, but Hastings been to the county center so many times, that is almost becoming a home court.
That's an outstanding point, James, especially with how well Hastings has played in a comfortable situation. They had one scare at home. That was earlier in the year against Leek and Watts. It went into overtime, and Hastings took over there. I think this is going to be, besides that game, this is going to be their 2nd biggest challenge at home. It's the last home game of the year. They obviously want to go away with the win. And it's just going to be very exciting. Look for them, look for the first quarter to be very key. If they can get out to a good start, establish themselves early, this one could be over right away. If Dobbs Ferry gets out to a good start, it's going to be a long ball game.
Well, when you're 20-0, one of the fears of a coach is that loss is looming. And a lot of times coaches don't even like to be undefeated in the regular season because they think that the loss is going to come in the section. But one thing Hastings has going for them is that they've been in some really tough contested games. You mentioned Leek and Watts. They really had no business winning that game, but they pulled it out. North Salem, double overtime, they pulled it out. So Hastings has been tested. It's not like they've run away with it.
That's an excellent point you guys make. And it's true. I know Coach Ward said, you never like to lose, but he said, from now on, you lose, you're done, you go home. So that's a huge factor. Charlie, about your point about jumping out to a huge lead, I agree with you, except for you have to understand, Hastings jumped down on North Salem 12-2. They had a 10-point lead. They scored 12 of the first 14 points in that ball game. That game went to double overtime. So I agree, Hastings has to jump out, use the emotion and energy of the crowd to their advantage, but they need to maintain that momentum and not let Dobbs Ferry get back in it. Right now, sit back and enjoy as bring you the start and the national anthem.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hastings High School and the Cochran Gymnasium for tonight's sectional quarterfinal playoff game between the Dobbs Ferry Eagles and the Hastings Yellow Jackets. We ask that all spectators exhibit good sportsmanship. Please respect your fellow spectators, the coaches, the officials, and the players. In addition, please keep the exits clear and stand behind the benches. Thank you for your cooperation. Now everyone please rise for the national anthem. For the Eagles, at guard 5'10", number 2, Derek D. Guglielmo. Center 6'2", number 13, Paul Scatarico. Forward 6'3", number 21, C.J. Fleming. Forward 6'4", number 23, Kevin Barrington. At guard number 1, Dan Gucci. Coaching Eagles, Sarah Martel. Assistant Scott Petrillo, and AD Skip Atlantic.
And now, the starting league at forward. At center, a 6'3" senior, number Fleming. At guard, a 5'10" senior, number 4, and Blake. At guard, a Jimmy. At forward, a 6'6" senior, number 21. Coach of the Jackets is Chris Ward, assistant coach Brent Harrington, AD Drew Wendell. Thank you and have a great night.
And that just sets it off on a great note. Coach Steve Urick doing a beautiful job announcing your Hastings Yellow Jackets. And I tell you what, that just leads into the electricity of this atmosphere tonight. We got both stands going crazy already. They're going back and forth, and the game hasn't even started yet, Charlie.
This has got to be one of the most exciting moments all year for all these players. What more can you ask for? It's a Hastings-Dobbs rivalry. Winner heads to the county center. Loser goes home. Packed house. So here we go. We're getting set for the tip-off. Your Yellow Jackets are one win away from White Plains and the county center. It's George Skrelja against Kevin Farrington. Hastings controls. This is Danny Blake, and now Jimmy Segru. Here's George Skrelja in the corner. Just underway here from the Cochran Gymnasium. Segru. Hastings being very patient. That's important. Segru. Here's Blake. And he travels.
Defense, they ball. Yeah, the guy running at him sort of forced him to travel.
Look for Dobbs Ferry to really pack his own. Make Hastings beat them with the jumper.
Here's Bucci. Farrington. DeGuglielmo, the point guard, with it. Kevin Farrington, 6'4" junior. DeGuglielmo lost it, and Hastings gets the ball right back. Solid defense.
Yeah, and again, you know, Dobbs Ferry, they did a good job showing patience on offense there. But I got to look for my big gun early in the game. I got to get the ball to Farrington, let him launch a couple of threes.
Segru being patient. Here's Chris Skrelja, younger brother to George, Danny Blake. And the Jackets will work it around. Blake with an open three.
There's a perfect example of the fear that Dobbs Ferry has with Danny Blake's jump shot. Fleming came flying out, and a little fake, he got the first foul of the game.
Yeah, if I'm Dobbs Ferry, I definitely have to stop Blake from shooting that three. He's so deadly. I just want to keep my feet a little bit more and not lunge like Fleming did.
Well, Hastings with a sloppy turnover, and Dobbs has it. They were looking to get the ball down low to George Skrelja. Bucci looking to drive. Now he leaves it for Farrington.
Hastings in their usual man-to-man defense.
Punched away. This is Fleming. And Dobbs starts off with a 2-0 lead.
And again, you know, Dobbs Ferry against that man-to-man offense, they got to look to isolate Farrington on Skrelja, try and get George in some foul trouble.
Defensive foul. That's the first against Bucci.
It's obvious that Dobbs Ferry is going to want to play physical defense, especially on George. They got to keep him out of the middle.
You know, I think nerves are playing a factor. We're almost 2 minutes into the ball game, and we've only had one bucket by both teams.
Skrelja for three. No good. Rebound goes to Farrington. Launch down court. Here's Fleming. Shot won't go. Ball's loose. Hastings has it. Outlet to George Skrelja. What a move behind the back. Skrelja is fouled. His ball handling skills are phenomenal for a high schooler.
Great outlet by Hastings on that. And Skrelja and George made a great catch and a great behind-the-back dribble.
Well, this is going to be a big factor. George Skrelja shooting from the line. He is not a great free throw shooter. In fact, the head coach of Pleasantville went as far as to say he thinks that they could beat Hastings. All they have to do is foul George all night. Well, George is 1 of 2. Hastings now trails 2-1. Danny Bucci hurrying down court, now slows things down. Fleming throws up a three, got it. 5-1, the Eagles have jumped out to the early lead.
Very reminiscent of the earlier game today where Briarcliff jumped out to the early lead. Hastings showing a little bit of nerves right now.
Jackets working it around. Here's Jimmy Segru. For three, no good. Rebounds loose. Hastings has it. Here's Danny Blake. Now George Skrelja, the big man, looking to drive. Nice moves. And Skrelja has 3 on the evening. It's 5-3.
Well, defensively, Dobbs Ferry has to stop that dribble penetration by George Skrelja.
Shot won't go. Dobbs has it. Here comes Bucci flying the other way. Bucci wide open for 3, and it's good. Jay Fleming, and the Eagles have a 5-point lead halfway through the first quarter.
Well, again, Dobbs Ferry doing a nice job getting their three-point shooters up and looks for 3. I said Farrington, I wanted Farrington for 3, Fleming for 3, same thing. They've got Hastings right where they want.
Chris from three-point land. Bucci, Scataretico slowing it down. Fleming. Foul against George Strelja there. His first. And Fleming will head to the line.
Hastings is applying the press, and they're going to be doing that all game, hopefully wearing down Dobbs Ferry. Dobbs Ferry is breaking the press right now, but Hastings is looking just to wear him down for the end of the game.
C.J. Fleming has hit all 3 shots he's taken so far tonight as he connects on that one. All 4 shots, excuse me. .6, Dobbs has the lead. And here's Jimmy Segru. So Fleming has all 10 of Dobbs Ferry's points. Segru for 3, no good. Rebounds at Strelja, trying to get something working down low, and he wisely slows it down. Strelja to the hoop, and he reverse lays it in.
Well, one of the stories within the story today is George Strelja, as we just saw Hastings committing a foul on Danny Blake. But George Strelja came in today's game with 908 points, and he's got 5, making that 913. We're going to keep an eye on that all day.
Hastings trails 10-8, 3:42 remaining here in quarter number 1. That's to Guglielmo. Fleming. Shot won't go. Flaherty with a strong reach for his